welcome along to Theory of Anything FM. I'm your host, Mr. Ford, here with my two co-hosts, Mr. Devon and Mr. Paps.
Hello, is that your best late night DJ voice?
Yeah. Well, you berated me last episode for being too loud and abrasive, so I'm like, okay. We'll go smooth this time, shall we?
I think our listeners always look forward to when you're opening the show for us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I know I do.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad, because I've got a little ultimatum for you guys, right? I got a choice, because I've been playing a few old games recently. I played the Jedi Knight Jedi Academy the other day.
Yes, I saw.
And I was thinking, right, would you rather be a Jedi in the real world, you know, with the lightsaber and the Force and all that, or would you rather be in the Star Wars galaxy, but no powers?
Be able to be a Jedi here in our world.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you'd probably get arrested, wouldn't you? And you get your lightsaber taken off you.
Huh? No one could take your lightsaber from you.
Couldn't they?
You're too good.
It'd be like one of those scenes where all the army with the tanks turn up and the helicopters and everything. You know,
It
you'd be completely surrounded. You're there all on your own with a lightsaber because you're a threat to society.
Unless you join the army, you know, or the police or something.
Oh, right, yeah. And be a hero. You could be a superhero.
Yeah, you could. There you go.
Yeah. Because Jedis do have a bit of superpower, don't they? They can run really fast when the plot suits them.
Bit of superpower. They got a bit of superpower. They're Jedis.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they can move things,
Yeah.
can't they? They can move things that are
They can
with
change people's minds as well and all sorts.
the power of Force, yeah.
So with the new stuff, they can heal themselves or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could become a doctor if you wanted.
So you can be a good guy with a lightsaber in the real world. Yeah, I'd go that. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't go there.
No. Oh, yeah, but you'd be famous.
So what though? You could have a spaceship and it'd be like, yeah, I've got a spaceship. So what? I bought it for a few quid.
I bet most people in the real Star Wars universe, if it really exists, are pretty poor and don't fly around in spaceships.
Yeah.
They'd just be on some rock being a miner or something, you know.
I guess.
Well, from what we see from the real Star Wars universe, even in the poor places like Tatooine,
Yeah.
Lovely.
yeah, that one. They've got hovercrafts and spaceships and all sorts still, and that's even in really poor desert places.
I think that would wear a bit thin and get a bit boring very quickly. Anyway, why are you asking this question now? What's going on here?
It just occurred to me, you know. Full ultimatum, you know.
Icebreaker.
That could have been a great segment.
It could have, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Okay.
Well, it's one and done.
But Ford, you are welcoming an intro in today's show. So
I am.
You've got something important to tell us, haven't you?
Yes. Now, you're trying to keep me back on track. It's a shame.
Yeah.
Now, here at Theory of Anything, we've been chatting about how we've been doing things so far and what's been working and what ain't, you know. So the long and the short of it is, I guess, that we've decided to change the way we do our episodes in that we'll only have, from now on, only one segment for the episode. One main segment, and then we'll have the homework.
Instead of us all trying to bring our own subjects, we thought we'd go a bit longer, deeper with the conversation, and hopefully a little bit more educated conversation, because we'll have all known what the subject was going to be before coming to the microphone. Yeah.
Now, of course, this is just, I guess we're trialling it, I suppose. We'll see how it goes. Yeah.
We'll try and keep the subjects varied like we do. I like to think of episode 31 being the beginning of a new season, you know?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we've had season 1, which was the first 30 episodes, with a format that has stayed relatively consistent. Season 2, we're just entering into now from episode 31 onwards. We'll see what happens.
Have you guys got anything else you wanted to talk about before we get on with the main show?
I do. Some analysis of our first 30 episodes, and I wondered if listeners might like to hear some stats of what we've been doing and talking about.
For the first season?
I'll try and keep, for season 1, we discussed 117 different subjects.
Gosh.
117, yeah. We spoke for a total of 35 hours and 3 minutes.
That's a bit much, isn't it?
Yeah, with an average show time of 1 hour and 10 minutes. The shows came out roughly every 9 days on average. A lot of averages here. shall I talk about whose segments were the longest? I think you probably know.
Yours.
Yeah.
The segments that were led by Ford first was a total of 6 hours and 3 minutes.
It's the shortest.
Yes.
Hey, nailed it.
Yeah. The segments that were introduced to. Don't get misled by these stats. It doesn't mean that you spoke less. It just means that your segments took less time.
I thought mine was shorter than Ford's.
No, yeah. So then next is Devon with 6 hours and 29 minutes. Both of those average out at roughly 12 minutes per episode.
It's not bad.
But with a whopping nearly an hour total time more, was myself with 7 hours and 26 minutes of segment time, which was an average show length of 14 minutes. And then our homework slots, our random chat homework time, was averaging at 18 minutes per episode. So that's where we spend most of our time in the homework.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, that, isn't it? Yeah.
I think most of our listeners could have told us that perhaps this segment's the longest.
As I got so ruthlessly told last episode. But a couple of other stats for you. I'm going to now go through the categories, because if listeners were not aware, we have 8 categories of subjects that we talk about. Okay, and I'm going to do like a top 8 starting in at number 8. With 5% of our chat time was the category of music.
Oh.
Yeah, we've only talked about music on 7 of those 117 segments.
Gosh.
5% of the talk time. Next, in 7th place, is technology, which was 9% of our talk time.
Wow.
Next is literature, which was... Oh, sorry, I got those two the wrong way around. Sorry. Literature was 8% and technology was 9% of our talk time. Next, with 13% of our talk time, was TV.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
I thought that'd be way up there.
Does that include films?
No, just TV.
Just TV.
Yeah.
Right.
So we've separated films and TV out. So TV was talked about in 16 different segments. I mean, sometimes our segments incorporate more than one subject, but when we think about the main theme of a segment, that's how it's been categorized, if you like. So where we've mostly talked about TV, that's gone into the TV category. Then next was games, which was 17 segments and 16% of our talk time. And then we have another category, which kind of everything that doesn't fit all the other categories goes into something we call anything chat. And so obviously theory of anything, we talk about lots of other stuff, don't we, that doesn't come neatly into one of the other themes subjects. So that was in third place with, again, 16% of the chat, but one extra segment. And then our second place segment was faith, with another 16% of the talk time. And we've talked about faith for 1 minute longer than we've talked about anything chat.
Oh, wow.
I love these kind of stats. And then
I can tell.
The most talked about subject was, what have I missed? Anybody?
Games.
Films. No, we've done games. Games was fourth, yeah. Film was our most talked about subject.
That does not surprise me at all.
Yeah, no, that's true. With 18% of our talk time. So there you are. That's just some interesting stats from the first 30 episodes.
Yeah.
If anybody else other than me was interested. Yeah. So that was one thing I wanted to say. And one other thing I wanted to say. I found myself in an Apple store.
Oh dear.
And succumbed to the temptation. Now, this goes back to an earlier episode. That's why I mention it now. And purchase the most expensive piece of hardware per gram of weight that Apple produce.
Is it the watch?
No, it's the AirPods Pro.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you remember rightly, I was a bit resistant towards these. Can you remember?
AirPods being headphones, essentially.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
The AirPods Pro are in-ears rather than normal earphones.
Yeah. Yeah, they kind of are. The
And they
original
changed the way that
AirPods.
you can actually use them as well.
Mm,
I think.
yeah, the first two versions of AirPods. I had the first version 1, and then they improved them a little bit, but they looked very similar. They were identical, really, but the technology worked differently, and they were better quality. Version 2. But you see a lot of people wearing them these days. I don't know if you notice it, but they're quite long, the bits that stick out your ears, and they just sit in your ears, the same shape basically as the wired headphones that Apple have always done. But the AirPods Pro are slightly different in appearance. They're shorter in the protrusion that sticks out of your ear.
Oh, yeah.
They've got a rubber cup on the tip that goes, rubber tipped cup that goes into your ear, so it forms a seal, which allows for two very impressive pieces of technology. One is noise cancellation, which is nothing new. I know noise cancellation happens with a lot of over-ear headphones and in-ear buds, earbuds. But I've never had noise cancellation headphones before, so I was mightily impressed by that.
Oh, cool.
And also the other thing it allows for is something called transparency mode, which I wasn't really aware of that until trying these. Basically what it is, the AirPods themselves have little microphones on them that project into your ear what the sound is that's going on around you.
Mm-hmm.
So I can listen to music or listen to podcasts and still hear other things going on around me. So other people who speak to me, and when you sometimes have a conversation with somebody who's got something, earbuds in, they don't know you're talking to them because it blocks out the surrounding environment. Whereas transparency mode overcomes that. So it's like enables you to hear
make it waste of time? Doesn't that kind of make it waste of time having the noise cancelling?
It's different things for different environments, I think. The noise cancelling is great for listening to music in an environment where you're on your own and you don't want any interference. Transparency mode, if you're driving, you can hear sirens around you and other things, or if you're in a public where you want to be able to hear something else. So say if you're sat in a station or an airport and you want to hear when your announcement's going to be made on the radio, on the tannoy, something like that. Interestingly enough, one advantage of putting it on noise cancellation mode while you're driving, you're not meant to do that, by the way.
No, yeah.
I did it when I was driving my rickety, noisy old diesel van, and it felt like I was driving an electric vehicle because I couldn't hear the engine anymore. It was wonderful.
Wow.
It's so peaceful and calming and beautiful. But I realise that's not the best way to go around driving when you've got your headphones in. The reservations I had was because of my job. I wear bungees on my AirPods, my version 1s, which the activation method on the new AirPods Pro, instead of tapping them, was a squeeze. And if you remember in our conversation, maybe you don't, it was a while ago, I was concerned that the squeeze method might not work for me with the rubber bungees on. But I can let you know, in case ever anybody does have the same problem, that you can push the bungees right the way up and still get to the squeeze part of the body of the AirPod bud earbud, and activate them quite happily. In fact, I find the squeeze is better than the double tap, which you used to use to either pause your listening, whatever you're listening to, or activate Siri with. So yeah, I'm impressed. I'm very, very impressed with them. In fact, I found them easier to operate than the original AirPods.
That's good.
Well, moving on with the show, I guess.
Thank you for bearing with me, listeners.
Thoughts segment subject.
Now, this is going to be a bit of a noncy segment because this week we're going to be talking about myths and legends.
Yes.
Yes. Now, there are many myths like across the world, and so I wondered if you guys had any favourites, like you wanted to talk about, or anything you want to talk about them in general. To be honest, I just find them really interesting, you know.
Yeah, the ones that are most interesting to me is the ones that you can find across all legends throughout the world. So it's not just like one person did a certain thing in one area, but it's say with dragons or vampires, that you can find instances of pretty much the same thing all across the world, from ages and ages ago. Before obviously they would have even been able to spread as stories through the world. So I think it's like pretty cool.
I do wonder if, with those sorts of stories, does that add some sort of validity to the idea that all legends and all myths have some basis in truth? You know?
Yeah. I looked for a definition. Do you want me to show you what I found?
No.
The difference between a myth and a legend. Okay.
Okay.
A myth is not a female moth. That's that's an old Nicky Gumbel joke. Yeah. If you're not sure who Nicky Gumbel is, he's the head of the Alpha course. Anyway, a myth is a traditional ancient story that is fictional. Myths are often written to explain natural phenomena and quite often involve gods and fantasy creatures. So that's where you're talking about dragons and things like that. Yeah. The creatures that we've got no actual historical fact. I don't think we've ever found the skeleton of a dragon, have we? Anyway, but a legend, a legend is a story which takes place within human history. Legends are widely believed to be rooted in the truth, but will have evolved over time and taken on fictional elements. Yeah. So there's a bit of a difference, you see, between a myth and a legend. A myth is very much made up story, whereas legends might be a little bit more grounded in truth.
Okay.
Well, the thing is, when I was talking about vampires, it's quite well documented the traditional kind of aspects of a vampire actually existing. Obviously, it doesn't mean they're a demonic person or anything, but like someone whose hair has hair and teeth have overgrown, so their fingernails are very long and their canine teeth are very long.
Right.
And they basically had some kind of insanity, and they would go around eating people and drinking blood. And it's like that is documented to be something that had happened. So like I think it's quite in maybe the Americas, I think.
Oh, really?
So obviously there's quite a bit that's like documented, as I said, to have happened, and that's probably where a lot of the myth comes from, or would say legend. Then obviously it's changed a bit, but based on something that's actually happened. And that's probably why it explains, as Ford said, that because obviously it's happened throughout the whole world. It's like it kind of explains where they get the story from, I guess.
Yeah. So that's true. Then there could be.
Doesn't mean obviously vampires exist, but
No.
it's like some people went around drinking blood who looked like a vampire, basically. That's where you get the description from.
Interesting.
It's like the tale of Robin Hood and things like Hercules or one or the other, where you have these people who do extraordinary things, and then myths and legends grow up around them, sort of thing.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and often with these things, as they get passed on generationally, they get embellished, don't they, and become more and more
outrageous.
Yes, yeah. But it's like that Chinese whispers thing, isn't it? You know what I mean? When you play that game, don't you, at a party, and the story evolves as it goes round the room, as you whisper it from one person to the other. And I guess it's the same with storytelling, where a legend can start with very much in the real world, in factual, but then suddenly somebody adds something to it, and it just gradually evolves. Yeah,
I think. And something I was thinking about with legends and stuff like that. It's kind of like the storytelling and the fiction of times gone by. We don't really talk about it very much anymore. But now we have more intelligent fiction, don't we? We watch films and read books and stuff like that. Whereas before, I guess that wasn't possible. So they had these stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose so.
that convey points, like a child shouldn't go into the swamp, so the Grindylow would eat them, or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously some inspire fear, but others like inspire hope and depart wisdom and stuff like that. Like with it made me think of Jordan Peterson. I talk about him quite a bit sometimes. He likes to take apart these legends and stuff like that and find the wisdom in them.
Yeah.
And there's a story of where Odin has to sacrifice his eyesight for ultimate wisdom or something like that. And Jordan Peterson likes to say, yeah, well, in order to get anything in this world, you have to choose a sacrifice and stuff like that. Yeah. Anyway, so I was just thinking, yeah, these legends and stuff, these myths sometimes impart interesting knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah, like lessons, aren't they?
Yeah, little lessons.
To try and get people to listen, they've made a story around it instead, just like parables.
True.
Yeah, parables. That's
Yeah.
kind of the thing, isn't it?
It's like that one, Crying Wolf, isn't it? The story about
the boy that cried wolf.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that one just came to mind. So teach people lessons.
As you say, like it can inspire hope as well. Just like with Achilles, his whole thing was that he wanted to be immortalized.
Yeah.
So he obviously made himself very, very good, with fighting, and he put himself in positions that he could be immortalized within history, which obviously he was. And obviously, we should watch the film about film again. Troy.
Troy. Yeah.
He says to one person, I can't remember, maybe Ford can help me out, but says, that's why no one will remember your name. I think maybe a guy wants to run away, or he wants to surrender or something.
Yeah, no, I think he's talking to the prince of of Troy, and the prince says, "There's no need to fight here. We can just walk away, and we'll be fine." And then he says, "Yeah, that's why no one's going to remember your name, because you're willing to settle for peace." There's a few interesting biblical, well, I say biblical, they're apocryphal stories, like the story of Baal and the dragon, where Daniel. Oh, you know this one, do you?
Vaguely, yeah.
Daniel's in Babylon, and he, the Babylon god comes to him and says, "Yeah, if your god's so great, how come? I mean, we've got our gods right here. If you can beat them, then maybe we'll listen to you," or something like that. And he ends up defeating them essentially. I mean, Baal turns out to be a statue, and the dragon he poisons or something like that. Yeah, it's odd and interesting, isn't it? I mean, yeah. I mean, you can see why it's apocryphal, because it's just stupid, somewhat.
Yeah, I mean,
well, it's hard to see what is, like, as we say, a parable or story that's meant to give a lesson in some way, and what is supposed to be a documentation.
Yeah, it can be that. Yeah.
Storytelling plays a huge part of what we read in the Bible, doesn't it? Again, many parts of what we read now were handed down verbally over the years, and obviously Jesus often taught through stories, didn't he? As we've already used the phrase a parable, and he would often tell stories about situations that some possibly did happen, and others were just examples or ways in which to illustrate a teaching of some kind, so there's quite a lot connects to Christian history as well. I mean, giants are talked about in the Bible, aren't they? There'd be giants in the land when they went out looking for the promised land. But and there's giants in Game of Thrones. I don't know if they're the same ones.
They're up north, are they?
Yeah. Yeah, help the wildlings, don't they?
Yeah.
It's interesting you said about the changing of some of these stories. That was a little while back, but yeah. I like to watch a YouTuber called John Solo. He does the Messed Up Origins. It's a series where he goes through these legends, and mostly I think he did a Disney series, because Disney's changed a lot of the stories that they've yoinked. Yeah, and they've got much gruesomer endings and beginnings, to be fair, than a lot of them seem to have.
It's strange how in modern depictions of angels, they're like baby humans with wings with a harp. Whereas you look in the biblical text of what they probably were like, it was like, I don't know, 6 wings and 1,000,000 eyes or something like that. And so that looks nothing like what we would ever consider to be humanoid anyway. And obviously there's a reason why they go fear not whenever they arrive. But obviously we've changed that through the years to mean little baby human with wings. It looks like the most innocent thing. Like, why would you fear when you would see like what we picture as an angel these days?
I was just thinking about the difference between what is often referred to, as you said, the baby angels, or named as cherubims.
Yeah,
I think.
cherubims.
I don't think they.
I can remember.
Yeah, they don't appear in the Bible, do they? Those, but no. It's interesting how history has included that as part of culture. You know, often on church buildings, even and gravestones and things like that. You know, you see baby angels, don't you? But yeah, the angelic being in the Bible is definitely described as something very, very different. Like as you just said, really, everything you just said, I agree. Yeah.
So, do you guys have like a favorite character or something like that? A story?
I mean, there's things like the Loch-ness monster, you know, which probably does fall into the myth rather than the legend category. Probably. Don't think there's ever. Well, there have been scientific studies to try and find the Loch-ness monster.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. Over the years and decades, they've definitely sent teams of scientists up there and scoured the loch to find I think it's the deepest freshwater body of water in the world. I think I might be wrong. I don't know for sure, but doesn't stop it being a fact. Yeah. Anyway, and so that's an interesting story. I wonder where that one came from.
Yeah. I do like the old King Arthur and the stone. You know, pulling Excalibur out and stuff like that.
When I was watching Thor the other day, that reminded me of that, because there's a thing about Thor's hammer, isn't there, that nobody can.
Only he who be worthy can
That's
pick up
it, yeah.
the hammer of Thor.
Yeah, that reminded me of King Arthur's sword. Yeah, which came first, King Arthur or Thor? Yeah.
Oh, probably Norse mythology, I would have thought.
Yeah. But did you mention Robin Hood as well? That's an interesting character, isn't it? I wonder how much of the story that we know now was based in fact. Maybe that's more of a legend.
Apparently, the first appearance of Robin Hood was in a poem.
Oh, right.
And it's a very brief poem, and you don't get any of the facts that you get nowadays. So, yeah, they're definitely built on that, you know.
Yeah. Was he a fox?
I think Disney might have been lying on that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I used to, probably a lot more, really find interesting the Bermuda Triangle.
Oh yeah.
And like some people call it the Devil's Triangle.
Okay.
It's just very, very strange happenings, and that you don't really know what's going on. And it's, I don't know, obviously a lot of our oceans are filled with the unexplored area that we have no idea what's going on there. But this Bermuda Triangle is like, well, something weird is in the Bermuda Triangle. It's probably just coincidences or polar axes and things like that that's caused something to happen. But as a kid, it was like very, very interesting.
They say something like we know more about the moon than we do our own oceans or something like that.
That's right. Yeah. There's a lot we don't know, isn't there? Definitely. Yeah.
So do you think there could be an Atlantis down there?
Oh, yeah, that's another one, isn't it? Yeah, story. I think the likelihood is no. But,
why you spoil it?
Have you got any other examples that we could ponder on for
aliens?
Aliens.
So you see, obviously we've got that depiction of an alien spacecraft, like a UFO, like a flying saucer.
Yeah.
As it classically is. But then there's also depictions of that exact same thing in Egyptian hieroglyphs.
Oh.
And it's like, oh, that's really strange. And obviously they're flying in the air, and it's really weird. It's really cool.
But could we be seeing things with our modern eyes that were different? You know, maybe it was
a frisbee.
The image of a crescent moon in the sky that looked a bit like the
confirmation bias. Yeah. So we're looking for things with the eye of wanting it to be true.
Yes, exactly. I've not seen those images. I don't know for sure. But if you want UFOs to be real, then you'll look for evidence wherever you can find it, won't you? Yeah,
definitely.
I mean, on that subject, I completely believe that there probably is life other than on this planet. It may even be life somewhere in this solar system. I know this is off topic completely. I don't think there necessarily be intelligent life in our solar system, but given the size of our universe and the number of galaxies, you know, the scale of it, the chances of us being the only beings alive, only intelligent beings alive, is probably next to no chance that we're on our own, you know.
Yeah, it'd have to be by design, wouldn't it, for us to be alone?
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting thought. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of theories of why something like that hasn't contacted us yet.
Yeah.
If you're talking about intelligent life, that is. So, probably one of the most given theory of why something like that hasn't contacted us yet is because there's a cutoff point for all races for that planet.
Yeah.
Kind of in time, in the lifespan of that race.
Mm-hmm.
So say us as a human race, obviously we're weighing down the resources of the Earth. So the scientists' basically theory is that every human race has, every race species has a time limit on how the resources they can gather on their planet, and there is no escaping. There is no going to another inhabitable world in time for you to escape the deterioration of your planet.
So civilizations and species are rising and falling all over the universe, but never evolving enough to be able to communicate with any of the others.
That's one of the theories,
Yeah. Now that takes out all necessary belief in God, but I don't think necessarily that by believing in life elsewhere, that makes you you're not dismissing the existence of God by saying that, you see. But anyway, but that's another subject. We're not talking about that today. Maybe we could another time. Yeah. Interesting.
Wow.
If it fell under myth and legend, which is our heading for today, then we could talk about it more.
But maybe aliens are kind of a little bit of a myth, I guess. I don't know.
I guess so. Yeah.
And contacting us anyway.
I was looking into it a little bit before we came to the microphone, and considering urban myth. You know, heard that expression of urban myth or urban legend, and that different type. You know, that's more of a more modern example, isn't it? And I look for a definition that's stories circulated as true, especially as having happened to a friend or a family member, often with horrifying or humorous elements. So, you know, that story, it's urban myth that, I don't know. I can't think of an example.
My great-granddad smoked every day of his life and he was fine. Was
that
right?
Yeah,
he lived to his 90, I guess.
Yeah. I just thought of one. That a rat came out of somebody's toilet and bit somebody on their backside, you know? There's another link.
Elvis is not dead or something?
Yeah, he's working...
This is conspiracy theories then, is it?
He's working down the chip shop. Oh no, that was a song, wasn't it? Yeah. There's a guy works down the chip shop, swears he's Elvis. Have you heard that song?
No.
Perhaps listeners can write in with your favourite urban myth. Yeah. The parakeets flying around West London are thanks to Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn film. The theory is that the film, The African Queen, shot in Ealing in 1951, as it wrapped, the birds were released into the wild. And now, apparently, parakeets are proliferated all over the London park, all over the area of Ealing. And I've heard about that parakeets are taking over in London.
Wow.
They talk about whether they're going to have to cull some because they're a very dominant species.
It's got to be better than the pigeons they've got at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose.
The phrase barking mad comes from a mental asylum in Barking. The story goes that the phrase barking mad comes from the medieval insane asylum in Barking in the Middle Ages.
That sounds legitimate.
Yeah.
I'd take that.
There always needs to be 6 ravens in the Tower of London. This is another famous one, but despite it being complete fiction, it's taken quite seriously.
Huh. Very nice.
Anyway, I think that's enough for some urban myths, but those stories get circulated, don't they, in modern day?
Oh, before we finish, when we were talking, I had a bit of a thought. What makes these myths and legends different to you than your own personal belief of God?
That is a good question, actually. Yeah.
Paps, what do you think?
Yeah. Oh gosh.
I think for me,
I don't know. What do you say? I think I've got an idea, but you go first. Yeah.
I think for me personally, when you put the Bible even against other historical documents, like the quantity of the manuscripts that we have with the Bible outmatches the. But I've got it written here, right? Some historical documents, the people who write these things, you got hundreds tops of these sorts of things. So like 33 manuscripts sometimes. But when it comes to the New Testament and stuff, we have 23,000 plus, in quantity of manuscripts. And then there's the question of how early they were as well. And we're talking, generally, historical documents come hundreds of years after, maybe 300 to thousands of years after the fact. And we're sitting here with documents that came 40 years after. Like the apostles wrote, well, some of them wrote their documents 40 years after,
Yeah.
And then I guess finally there's the truth aspect. We read repeatedly in these books, we care about the truth. And I've got a scripture here that says, at the beginning of Luke, it goes, many have undertaken to compile a narrative about the events that have been fulfilled among us, just as the original eyewitnesses and servants of the word handed them down to us. So within that's only one. If you read through the Bible, especially the New Testament, how often they try and appeal to eyewitnesses and truth and stuff like that, and you just don't get that in other myths and legends. Those 3 things,
That's very good. Yeah.
I feel like we have so much, even compared to history,
Yeah, documentation.
Yeah. So there you go.
I don't think I can top that with an answer, to be honest. I mean, there's also the aspect of personal experience as well, which many of us can testify to. When you have a daily encounter with God in a meaningful way, then it's hard to deny, isn't it? We're not dealing with somebody else's experience; we're dealing with our own experiences.
That's a good point.
We're not relaying something that happened to somebody else. This is what's happening to us. But yeah, brilliant answer. Well done. Yeah,
nice.
Very good.
And I think that will wrap up the segment.
And now it's time for Random Chatting.
So we had homework for last week. We should have hopefully watched the film Café.
Yes.
From the year of 2011.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what did you guys think? I guess.
Well, obviously, we must warn listeners, if you haven't seen this film, there will be some spoilers going on in our conversation. So,
yes.
We love spoilers. Yeah.
So, anyway, carry on.
Okay. The film Café is set in a cafe, almost completely exclusively. And basically, you're following these people's experiences as they come in and out of the cafe. Primarily, well, I guess there isn't really a primary character. I mean, you got Todd, who works in the cafe, who's kind of a central focus, and you've got Craig, who's a central focus around the world storyline.
Yeah.
it's quite a hard film to describe what the story is.
Yeah, because there's so many, isn't there?
Yeah, it's like a lot of little stories, like Claire, who also works at the cafe, her struggle with her abusive boyfriend. This other couple who go and watch films together and are practically dating, even though the guy's married. The drug dealer guy, or the cop and his cousin, who is basically working for the drug dealer, the addict. Yeah, there's quite a lot going on, and there's not really something that I don't know. I guess the idea of the film is that the event, spoiler again, the event of the shooting that happens in the cafe.
Yeah. It's not
unites
so
them all.
much a spoiler because it happens within the first few moments, doesn't it?
Yes.
But then we see the build up to it. We have one of those flashback things, don't we? And then you see how we got to what
Exactly.
we hear at the beginning is some shots being fired and people rushing to see what's happened.
Exactly.
So
Even though everyone's got lots of different stories going on, I think the idea
Yeah.
of the film is that that event unites everybody into that one position in time.
Yeah.
I thought it was quite interesting because I sat down and watched the film, started watching the film, and then that event happened. I was like, oh, okay, I better start taking notes because this film means business. I was not expecting this film, I tell you.
Yeah, I thought it was good. Yeah, I really enjoyed the journey of the film, and I was on edge all the way through it because I didn't know what was going on. From the moment really, it begins to take a strange twist when the little girl speaks to what's his name, Craig, through the laptop, and she seems to have this otherworldliness about her.
Yeah.
And you begin to think, who is she? What's she doing? And what was her name?
Ellie.
Ellie, yeah, Ellie. Yeah. So I think, if you want to talk about what the central idea of it is who is Ellie is the question, isn't it? Really, that's the big question.
Yeah. That's the big question for Craig, but for everyone else, no one really cares. Like, no one has any idea that they're in this simulation type thing, or who Ellie might be.
Isn't it? What I mean isn't it the big question for us as viewers?
I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, at one point, I was thinking all we're seeing is the inside of this cafe, apart from the opening sequence, where you do see the view of the cafe from outside and people on the pavement. But I was thinking, is this a simulation of just that room? A bit like a Matrix style story. A computer generated environment, if you like, with the outworking of these people's lives. Because even when people come and go through the front door, the light is just like this glowing light.
It's really overexposed. Yeah, you can't see anything outside.
You don't see the outside world while you're in the cafe, do you? You can't see anything out the windows. You can't see anything from the door when it opens. So it was giving you that impression of a very false world, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In fact, I thought to myself afterwards when it ended, I wish we hadn't seen the opening sequence. I know it sets us up for the end sequence because of the shooting, but if there was some way of portraying the shooting at the beginning without us seeing the cafe from outside, I think I would have enjoyed it more.
I think it would been good if you saw the police rushing it into the cafe, but not necessarily hear gunshots. That would still then be like, oh, what's happening? What's going down?
Yeah.
What is it?
Interesting.
Because even now, I'm left not knowing exactly what happened.
Yeah, same.
What have we just seen? And I wasn't sure if this film, risk of going spiritual again, has this film been made by Christians? Because much of the character of Ellie is the image of God, wasn't she?
It was a very obvious God metaphor, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the correct way of saying it, Ford. Thank you. Yeah, God metaphor, yeah. And was it written or made by a group of, like they do in America, they're beginning now, Christian films produced in America are beginning to take on a whole new level of quality.
They've always been rather cheesy, haven't they?
Exactly, over the decades, they've not been the best. So, but today, this was filmed in 2011. It was a high bar, I think, in terms of filmmaking and acting and storytelling. Anyway, that's basically what I've got. anybody else want to say anything before I then come on to my negative point? Unless you've got the same negative point.
I'm a bit conflicted about this film, to be honest. I think I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it, but I can't see the point to it, and I can't see like what the story was. And I feel like the best actor was the 11-year-old Ellie.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Wow.
it felt, I don't know. But I did enjoy it, but it's very strange.
It's a very odd dynamic because you're jumping from one story to the next, and I think that was interesting and good, but it also made it feel weird.
A bit bitty, yeah.
I don't know how to express it properly. I felt like I was being tossed around a bit because of that, you know?
Yeah.
Which was fine. I still had a good time, but yeah.
It's been done before many times, you know, where you see a setting from different people's perspective and how they all intertwine. In some ways they do intertwine, some ways they don't. But I thought some of the individual stories were quite interesting, I thought.
I found it very interesting, yeah.
But it was like by the end, nothing even mattered. Like, everything was reversed. Like...
That's my problem.
So we're going to talk about the end, are we?
For me, it took the easy way out, and I was a bit, what? Oh, no.
Yeah,
Everybody lives happily ever after.
Yeah.
Sorry, spoiler.
Yeah, I just wrote down here, cop-out ending for sure.
Cop-out ending, good.
Yeah.
So the last 5 minutes for me were the biggest disappointment of the film. Now, I know some people say, oh, yeah, but that was the nice way to end it. But it was like... nobody died in the end. Then
it didn't actually resolve any of the issues that we'd come to get into, you know.
No.
Well, like the drug dealer and his mistress or whatever, and you find they're now pregnant, and there's a bit of a conflict there. She wants to get rid of it, he doesn't, and then they get shot, and then they end up come back to life and walk away happy. It's like,
what happened was that all the wrongs had been righted in an instant. So you could see that Tommy had no longer been addicted to drugs. He looks a lot healthier instantly. Yeah. And he's obviously not in the game anymore. So you could only be able to then consider that Glenn, the drug dealer, isn't in the game anymore either. And see, Claire was didn't have a black eye anymore, and she was alive and everything. So
and she's no longer interested in this other guy.
Yeah,
she's
Dave. So it's like every all the wrongs got righted straight away.
But if this is a God metaphor, that's not how God does things.
No.
Like anyone who thinks that it is how God does things is crazy, because that's just not it.
So Ellie, the God character, talks to Craig, the big guy on the laptop, and how did the conversation go again? It was like he had to do something for her to.
He had to change. Tell Claire that they're in a simulation and that she's just an avatar. I don't know why.
No, that was earlier on, but at the end, the crunch point,
he had to be willing to sacrifice himself.
So did he sacrifice himself?
No, he didn't, because he was alive at the end talking to the hot girl in red.
Yeah.
It's kind of a Jesus metaphor there.
Yeah. So there was no sacrifice.
There's no sacrifice. And I think it's boring.
Yeah. That's my problem. I enjoyed 95% of this film because I wasn't sure where it was going. I thought, this is an interesting world I'm watching, but then it copped out, and I'm not glad, I'm disappointed that it ended that way, but I'm glad that it's not me that's the only one who thinks that. That actually, what a letdown. I was left a bit deflated, you know. I was thinking, I'm glad I'm watching this. I'm really enjoying these characters. I'm really enjoying this story. Not sure what's going to happen, how it's going to conclude. And I'd been happier if there'd been a bit of tragedy at the end. It doesn't have to mean everybody died who died, but it was like, let's wrap it all up in a nice ribbon and pat you all on the head and send you off. But like you said, Devon, I think, what lesson was learnt, you know, or what was the payoff?
What was the point? Yeah,
don't do drugs.
Yeah.
It also felt like all the male characters had like something really big wrong with them. So like, there's a lot of really awkward male characters who just didn't know how to talk to the women, and they were just really awkward. And if they weren't awkward, then they were just bad. There wasn't a good male character.
Yeah.
you could rely
But
on.
that's
I
just
was-
life, isn't it?
I guess the character who I didn't enjoy the most, and I couldn't understand his purpose in it, was the cafe owner, who was sat in the
writer,
corner,
yeah.
the writer, making notes. And I thought, what is your character's point? And the scene where he gets found out by Todd,
Yeah, nothing happens with it.
it was just a bit silly, really. Obviously he rings the cafe owner, and then somebody in the cafe stands up and takes the call outside. It was like, well, yeah, okay, we've seen that before. It didn't serve any purpose, and what was the point of him being in the cafe only, and observing?
Well, he was our point of view character, right?
Was he?
Well, I don't know. It's kind of like the story we're watching is what he's written down or something like that.
I have to come away feeling I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
A little bit
It's entertaining.
frustrated by it, because it wasn't what I was expecting. I'm not sure it moved me on. If it was written from a spiritual perspective, it didn't move me on in a spiritual way, and I'm not sure if I wasn't a Christian whether it would either. It would probably leave me more confused than anything about God. If that was its intention, I don't know.
I think a lot of the answers Ellie gives are a bit half baked, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I've heard people answer a lot of those questions about God a lot better,
Yeah.
But
That was
I really
interesting.
I really had a good time actually, even with the disappointing ending, because
like I said, 95% of the time I was having a good time as well.
yeah. How many half-baked God metaphors out of 10 would you give?
But it does beg the question before we answer that one. Before we answer your question, what do we get? What do we want from a film? Do we want the 95% solid, interesting, intriguing, good story, or are we looking for the 5% payoff at the end? It's a shame that 5% has diminished what I'm about to say from my score.
I feel like if Lost has taught us anything, you have to have a good ending.
You do. That's
and
right.
Game of
Yeah,
Thrones
because it
and things like that.
paints everything else, doesn't it?
Because you invest for this story, and the end of the story is the most important part. Because that's what you go away thinking about, and that's how the characters end up being in your eyes.
Yeah.
And it's like everything. Yeah, I don't think.
And you're left like going, what at the end? Oh, after all that, Yeah, I think you're right. It's such a shame if you don't get the end right, then the rest of it can be tarred with the same brush. That was the expression I was looking for.
Yeah.
So back to your question, Ford.
Yeah. How many half-baked God metaphors out of 10 would you give it?
Let's say 6.5.
I was going to go with that. That was my score. Yeah,
that is low.
In my head. I'll go 7 then. Maybe I liked it a little bit more.
You liked it more than I did, yeah. But maybe
if the last 5 minutes was rewritten, I'll be giving it an 8, definitely. Yeah.
Wow. I am giving it an 8, even though I don't like the ending too much.
Okay.
The thing is, I had a good time, and I would recommend it to someone because I was happily surprised and entertained, and it really got me interested.
Yeah.
And that's what I want from a film: entertainment.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I suppose.
Yeah, I was entertained as well, but some things like just the pointlessness of some of the story and the acting, there's a bit too much to be able to give it any more than a 6.5, I think. Even though I was entertained, as you say.
In fact, one of the things that just occurred to me, I enjoyed the fact that they weren't afraid to kill off the Claire character.
Yeah.
One of the main characters, and we find out she's dead, sort of towards the end in this final act, And I thought, wow, that was brave. But of course,
she comes back again.
Yeah, it wasn't brave because they brought her back.
And if she comes back at the sacrifice of what's his face, Craig, then that's okay. Because there's still a loss, a sacrifice.
Yeah.
There's a character who you did like, who was gone now.
Yeah.
But
because he was
he was there as well, so
nice,
it was like
he was a genuinely nice guy, so there was no sacrifice. Yeah,
there was no sacrifice, even though there's the illusion of sacrifice because obviously he had to be willing to make the sacrifice to be able to do it.
Yeah,
but he still didn't have to do anything. Yeah. It was just like
it's really odd because throughout the film it does feel rather gritty with the drugs and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and then it ends on a chirpy backtrack sort of we're not going to take anything too seriously kind of way. And it's like, well, throughout the most of the film, I've been feeling kind of gritty. So why not end that way?
Yeah, it doesn't get a great score on IMDb, I must say. I think it's underscored on IMDb, 5.6 out of 10.
Yeah, no.
I haven't looked into the background of it, who wrote it, and it does say on here, but I don't recognise these names. Maybe I should.
I'm glad I watched it, I have to say.
Yeah.
Thank you for the recommendation. Yeah. I probably will watch it again with my wife because she fell asleep at the beginning. And I said to her, I think you'd have enjoyed that at the end. Yeah. So I might watch it again, see if it resonates more with me. Yeah.
I did want to say, I really enjoyed some of the metaphors that they used, visual metaphors, or audible, as this one is. Like whenever someone comes in and out, or just into the cafe, there's obviously that what was it, rooster cockerel
picture above the door. Oh yeah, the rooster noise. Yeah.
Which is kind of like it's the noise of waking up. So it's like waking up from the simulation. I think they were trying to portray with that with Craig, and when he got his coffee and there was the picture of the world in it, and then it kind of disappeared. It's like your world's an illusion type thing. So I think there's obviously a lot more that I saw but can't remember. But I think they did a lot of
good
cool
ideas.
metaphors. Yeah.
There's some odd sequences. I'm not sure what the significance of the toilet key was. I don't know what that was about, and I don't know quite what the dance sequence was about either. There was a whole dance routine in the middle, wasn't there?
I think that was just showing. It was Ellie showing Craig that she can kind of do anything.
She was in control. Really
cool things.
Yeah.
Happen.
I thought that was more like a look. She might be all powerful, but she enjoys the little things like music and dancing and stuff like that.
Yeah. The effect of it was for us as watchers was to show us that there's something very odd going on here. It gave us an unreal perspective on it. Unreal.
Well, that's that then, isn't it?
I think that was a worthwhile, interesting conversation. Yeah, and for once we nearly all agreed on everything. But yeah. Well, thank you. If anybody else has got other recommendations, we'll be glad to consider them.
Yeah,
and especially if they come up with little treasures like this that give us something to think and talk about. Yeah,
definitely.
It's homework time and hasta la vista, baby.
Okay, so now sit down, children. We've got your homework here. You need to listen to the "If You Leave" album by Daughter.
Oh,
Daughter.
Yes.
Not my daughter. A band called. Is it a band or an artist or?
It's an artist. Yes, it's a band. I'd say.
A group.
I forget if she's just one person or she actually has.
No, nothing about this performer, if we can call it that. Yeah.
So
Listen
this
to
time,
some music.
This time next episode, we will be talking about a album rather than a film. So that would be nice, wouldn't it?
That would be nice.
It will. Yeah.
Feel free to listen along, I guess, and send us your thoughts so we can include it.
Indeed. Yes, that's good.
Thank you.
And any other recommendations in either film, music, games, or books? Preferably a short book, though.
Yeah.
Well, I think that means we'll wrap it up from us. You can find us at any podcasting platform and also on YouTube.
All the main podcasting platforms, I think you mean.
Yeah, are we not on all of them?
I don't think we're on every single
very obscure one that's
platform.
out there.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we better prefix it with all the best ones.
Best ones, yeah, because we're on it, of course.
Yeah, we make them the best, yeah.
If you want to hit us up and maybe give us a suggestion, like we just said, and any comment would be greatly appreciated. You can find us at Facebook. You can find us on Twitter at Theory of Anything. That's TING at the end. Or you can email us at theoryofanything@hotmail.com.
Lovely.
That's the way to do it.
That's the way.
Yeah, thanks for listening along, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you very much, guys. Lovely to chat to you in this new format. Let us know as well if you prefer this or the old way. I don't know what the runtime's going to be, but we'll hopefully see how it goes. Until we meet around the microphone again next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.